Well, this was a unique writing experience for me because this is my second book with my current publisher, which means that I got to do a fun thing I've never done before, which was submit a proposal before I wrote it. So basically I made an extensive outline, which I do anyway, and got to have approval from my publisher and actually like story input with the editor prior to writing a single word. So that process took at least probably a month or two, and then I actually sat down and wrote it, and that really only took me, I think, 2 months for this one, and I think partially due to having already had a lot of conversations about exactly how it should go, so I could kind of just sit down and crank it out. But very quick, fun writing experience in this case. I do have a fun factoid for you, actually. I was doing research for this, and just wanted to talk to social workers and people who had been through the system to kind of make sure I got an authentic experience or a couple accounts. And while doing that, I talked to a couple that had been fostering kids for, I want to say, like 30 years, a very long time, and they had fostered just an insane amount of kids. And they were telling me a lot of stories, and they kind of made their way into this indirectly. I didn't take anything specifically from them, but just kind of the vibe of the story. And the main family you follow in this are the Clarks, and it's a bipolar mother and 2 young boys, and just kind of their experience with this family. And that had a lot to do with kind of how I was going to portray just this unfortunate circumstance. People think of Child Protective Services getting involved and they think awful things, and I just wanted to show that there's actually a more complex side to it than that. It's not always black and white. They're not bad people. It's not always horrific abuse. Sometimes it's just people that are not equipped, whether financially or because of illnesses or anything like that, to really be the parents that they would like to be. Bit of a tangent off of that, actually, because in that very same interview is when I heard the story about the tomato soup. And it was just something that they said kind of offhand. They almost didn't even go to it. They were just like, yeah, this boy got into the system because he was making soup out of ketchup, and they just decided that was unfortunate. And I was like, as I was listening to this, I'm like, wait, what? Hold on. Making soup out of ketchup? I need to know more. And it turned out to be that he would get hot water from like a restaurant and put ketchup in it, and it would make tomato soup. And I just decided that was just such an amazing story that I wrote a short story where I kind of invented characters and I filled in all the random details to make it actually a story. But it was about this tomato soup thing and the ketchup and the salt and pepper and all that. And it just turned out to be a great story. And I remember while I was writing it, actually, I wanted to try it. So I did. I got I think it was a tiny little teacup's worth, but I actually did the whole thing, and it shockingly tasted a lot like tomato soup. I was very impressed. I'm like, this little kid was ingenious. But yeah, that story went on to win the Writer's Digest conference, or the Writer's Digest short story, which got me to the Writer's Conference. Had a big trip to New York and everything, so that was very fun. But it was just this kind of happenstance, tidbit that I came across that ended up turning into one of my best successes, which who would have thought? I thought I was just doing research for this book, and then next thing I know, I've got this great little short story idea that's got nothing to do with anything else. So I wrote the book, and I just picked names that I liked the entire way. I had the brothers in this story were Dion and Damien, which I liked for the double D's, because, siblings share initials a lot of the time. And I had just other names that I just picked. I didn't think much about. I had a Tim, I had a Tina, and then I had Danielle, who's another D name, and Jenna, and then the mom was Janine, and so I just had all these names that started with, 4 different letters, and every single character in the book had those names, and that's basically writing 101. That's something that I know, but for some reason just was not on my mind as I was writing this. And then I sent it off to my editor, and she came back to me and she was like, everyone's name starts with T or J or D. What are you, I can't keep anybody straight. What are you doing? So I had to change everyone to make it more diverse. But it's funny because that happened really at the very end of the process, and it was just such a hands-off experience, you know, you just search and replace all and it's done. So now that once I got the book actually in my hands later, I'm like looking through it and I'm all excited about my new book and I'm like, who the heck is Adam? Like, Madonna, who's that? Like, I don't even know my own characters now for a second because it's so hard once you connect with these characters and you spend time with them and you shape them and you think of their history and all this stuff and then their name just changes. It throws you for a total loop. Finding a cover was possibly the most brutal part of the entire process. Harder than writing it, harder than editing it, finding the cover. No, actually, it really was tough, but the thing is when you're trying to find a cover, you're thinking of your themes, right? And it's like romance, but it's really hard, especially when you have a character who's a minority, to find two women that even relatively fit your descriptions, so that's difficult unless you start just doing like the close-ups on body parts and stuff where you can't really tell. But I didn't want to do that because there's a bunch of those, and so then kind of one of the other elements, social services, poverty, like that's a really depressing cover. I didn't really want to do that. And so then my wife and I were looking online because I dragged her through this painful experience with me, and we were thinking, okay, well, it's like this forbidden secret workplace romance. Maybe if they're like touching hands under the table or something, some kind of incognito, you know, touch to kind of symbolize their secret love. And we're like searching holding hands, and it's just every single one is on the beach over and over and over again. They're just ridiculous. They're stock photos, you know, so it's really, really tough to find one that looks natural. They all look very staged because they are. And then the one that I actually found was the very first cover that I liked, like, at all. And I kind of set it aside, and I'm supposed to pick like 3 or 4 options and then send them to my publisher in case they don't like what I chose. They have something to work with, and then we kind of go back and forth and agree. And this is the only one I could find that I liked at all. So I sent them this, and then like some crap that they could not even begin to use. It was like raindrops on a window. And the editor like emailed me back, and she was like, what is this? Like, this isn't, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, you only have one picture and it's like an artsy picture, and then you have like pictures of rain. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? So then I had to go back and look again, and finally I found a couple that I thought were horrible still, and basically the entire time I just knew this was going to be my cover. I'm like picking other things just to, because I have to go through the process, but it was never going to be anything else. Okay. How fun was that? Let's see if it works. Approved! Do you want a receipt?
No, you don't.
Okay.